Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to Fellowship Church. Today is the last day to sign up for an FC group. With a variety of great options led by amazing leaders, there's something for everyone. Whether you're on the fence, looking for deeper connection, or new to our church, joining a group could be just what your life needs. So I encourage you, explore the options on our app or website, or visit the tables in the atrium and sign up today. We're currently collecting donations for the Amazing Grace Food Pantry here in Middletown. And as the holidays approach, we have a great opportunity to bless both Amazing Grace and our community. You can find the list of needed food items on our website, along with specific feminine hygiene products for their new initiative supporting Middletown's middle and high schools. Drop-off is next Sunday, September 22nd, here at Fellowship Church. Finally, we want to say thank you to everyone who served and attended this year's Last Blast. It was an absolutely incredible and beautiful day with over 600 people in attendance, including over 50 first-time guests at Fellowship. 29 individuals of all ages went public with their faith through baptism, 9 of which made the decision to be baptized that very day. The whole day was a huge win. And as many of you expressed, we are so grateful to have such an amazing church. Also, we want to say thank you for your financial generosity, because without your continued giving, celebrations like this wouldn't be possible. So again, thank you to all of those who served, attended, and gave generously. If you're looking to give today, you can do so online through our app or website. That's all for today, but before the message, let's take a look at a quick recap of the Last Blast.
Well, one of the things I enjoy doing to relax and to get my mind right a little bit is rowing. And my friend Jeff got me into rowing a few years ago. Especially, I love doing this in the fall. I enjoy rowing a few evenings a week, seeing the sunset. Now, if rowing is new to you, it's when 8 of you get into a narrow boat with large oars and you row in unison. And when it's done correctly, wow, it is a beautiful thing. You cut through that water all together. There's just a great flow. But when done incorrectly, it can be quite a wild ride. There's a lot of reasons the ride can get a little crazy. I mean, if the boat isn't set, that means it'll lean to one side or the other. And if you're the unfortunate one, you'll be fighting for your life to control your oar on every recovery. If the oars don't exit and enter just at the right time, it leads to all kinds of, let's just call it uncomfortableness on the boat. I mean, you're constantly having to adjust your body weight, your oar height, your timing, the pressure you push with your legs. Now, never mind when an exuberant boater or a jet skier comes flying by and creates this massive wake that you have to navigate. You know, we've rowed in all kinds of conditions, in the wind and in the rain, in the heat and in the cold. And it seems like that your head needs to be on a swivel to be aware of all the variables, yet if you move your head, then the boat moves as well. So, good times. Well, rowing is really a metaphor of life. You want to go through life with the people in your life, and you want to make progress and meet goals and accomplish things together. And when you do, it's a beautiful thing. But when disruption hits, look out. And, Jesus was very honest with us. He said it himself thousands of years ago. In this world, you will have trouble. You're going to have trouble. And it seems that over the last several years, we've all experienced our fair share of it, haven't we? Whether it's natural disasters or pandemics or technical advancements or economic crisis or social and political movements or wars and conflicts, we have seen it all. Think about this in just a cursory overview of the last 15 years. We've witnessed the 2010 earthquake in Haiti that ended up taking nearly 250,000 lives. Katrina, famously, that hurricane in New Orleans, 1,800 lives lost, 800,000 housing units destroyed, damages going north of $80 million. In 2009, the H1N1 swine flu of 214 countries were affected. In 2015, Zika virus, where 87 countries were affected. Technology, well, in 2007 alone, the invention of the iPhone, Twitter, and Facebook all went global. Kindle and Android released as well. Airbnb was founded. Google bought YouTube, and IBM created its own AI system called Watson. Do you remember that? And in America, we experienced the financial collapse of 2008, the Iraq wars, and Afghanistan, and the list goes on. Disruptions like these have always been with us throughout humanity. And it seems like we're always dealing with one, maybe two, or sometimes even three of these at the same time. But then came 2020, right? And that's where the world experienced all 6 of these disruptions that I mentioned at the same time. And as a result, people moved. Some retired early, whether that was forced or voluntary. We ended up changing jobs. Some of us even changed careers. Many of us changed churches. Some quit going to church altogether. Others found a church and began engaging. But we were all faced with the fact that there was very little that we could control. That what we thought we controlled previously, let's be honest, that was just a mirage. And now, today, 4 years later, it's not quite 2020, but we find ourselves mired deeply into another election season. And matter of fact, 2024 is being touted as the largest election year in history. It means there's elections happening all over the world. And it's leading to the possibility of change and uncertainty in many of these countries. And who knows where that's all going to lead. And never mind, back home here, inflation and interest rates have risen. Home buying has become nearly impossible for many. And technology, of course, continues to advance at an alarming rate, doesn't it? The rise of AI is happening so fast that even scientific and entrepreneurial leaders are calling for a timeout on its advancement. And then you can't ignore the wars in Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Gaza. It just seems like the world's a tinderbox, doesn't it? All this, and we're managing all these different changes at a high rate of speed. So what happens? Stress levels go up, loneliness goes up, and who doesn't feel overwhelmed these days with work and with family, raising kids, all the rest. An article came out just this week which stated modern parents are under so much stress that the U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy issued a national advisory sounding the alarm about the critical public health issue. Time and money were stressors for parents of older generations, but parents today, they also have to deal with looming presence of social media, a teen mental health crisis, and what Murthy called the epidemic of loneliness. His report included an American Psychological Association study where nearly 48% of parents with children under 18 said that their stress was so overwhelming on most days compared to only 26% of the non-parents. And things don't seem to be slowing down, right? It's believed that in the 21st century, due to technological advancements and the speed of change, humans are going to experience 20,000 years of progress in the next 100 years. Aren't you so glad that you're listening today? Listen, all this to say that we have navigated the last 15 years or so with a steady increase of stress and anxiety and loneliness, and certainly a feeling of being overwhelmed. And news like this, honestly, it makes us yearn for the good old days, the simpler days, right? But if we were to be honest, the good old days weren't always very good either. They had their own troubles and their disruptions as well. Not even Jesus was exempt. Jesus was born into a time in history when Israel was experiencing political turmoil and frustration, all dealing with the complexities, emotion, and oppression of the Roman Empire. He was born into poverty and economic difficulty, and a large part of his ministry revolved around healing those who were sick. There was always constant fear of conflict and uprisings. Political zealots abounded, and death was all too common. And as he lived and he loved among all of this chaos and turmoil, Jesus himself was ultimately betrayed and crucified. But on the third day, he rose again. And since then, Jesus' answer to the world has been his church. And even since the inception of the church, its mission, purpose, and values have aligned with building and developing robust followers of Christ. But if you think about the church, even in its infancy, it faced disruptive challenges, such as early persecution, resulting in many of them fleeing Jerusalem only to face further persecution in Greek and Roman cities. And throughout its history, the church has responded by bringing peace and comfort and even order to difficult and extreme political times and that deal with conflict and war, such as even the fall of the Roman Empire. And throughout the centuries, the church has been on the front lines, meeting the most basic needs and care for those most affected by pestilence, pandemics, and plagues. The church has led the way in helping those affected by economic disruption, by feeding and housing the poor. And when natural disasters have struck, it's been the presence and work of the local church to reach out and to care for those who've been devastated by these disruptive events. So whether met with disruption from within or from outside its walls, the church has historically met the call and challenge to resiliency. And I believe the church is here to make a difference, especially in this day and age. Now, how do we make this difference? How has the church made this difference? Well, we've done this by basing who we are on the person and the teachings of Jesus. Jesus showed us all how to live with an incredible grace rather than out of control anger. He showed us how we could experience peace even when the surrounding world was caught up in chaos, and still find joy in difficult and challenging times. And of course, lead with love when it was normal to look out for yourself first rather than helping or giving any attention to others. He did this in a whole lot of different ways. But perhaps the most poignant was through his famous teaching, the Sermon on the Mount. Teacher and author John Ortberg calls the Sermon on the Mount the greatest teaching ever given by the greatest teacher who ever lived. The Archbishop of Canterbury says the Sermon on the Mount stands on the universal scales as the most world-transforming sermon that's ever been delivered. And in this sermon, Jesus masterfully addresses the issues we face revolving around life's constant disruptions, anxiety, overwhelmness, and even loneliness. And he offers approaches, insights, wisdom that are many times countercultural. And his teaching includes major themes, including the priority of healthy relationships, the development of character and virtue, and the importance of doing good to others. And finally, that purpose and meaning is offered to everyone, even in and especially in the everyday of life. So together, over the next several months, we'll be journeying together as a church family through the Sermon on the Mount. And it's my hope that as we unpack this deep and practical teaching, that our faith will be strengthened, that our hope would be renewed, and that we would be known by our love for each other. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is recorded in Matthew 5 through 7, but to get a full context, we need to take a look at Matthew 4. And remember, there were no chapter divisions when Matthew was first written. So in chapter 4, we get a look at the audience who first heard this sermon. And Jesus himself was growing in popularity among the people of that day. Interesting enough, among people who really weren't all that very popular. We pick it up in Matthew 4:23. It says, "Now Jesus began to go all over Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people." Then the news about him spread throughout Syria, a neighboring country. So they brought to him all those who were afflicted, those who were suffering from various diseases and intense pains, the demon-possessed, the epileptics, and the paralytics. And he healed them. Large crowds followed him from Galilee, where Jesus was raised, I should say. The Decapolis, the 10 cities that were Gentile cities, Jerusalem, Judea, and beyond the Jordan. So picture this. All kinds of different people from all kinds of different places. Jesus has been traveling around. He's been stirring up all the misfits and the social outcasts, the motliest of crews, the forgot about nobodies, the not important, and certainly not the winners or the strong or the successful. They are all following Jesus. And that's when we pick up Matthew 5, verse 1, when it says, "When he saw the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him." So there's your setting, on the mountain. I have to tell you, just call a time out here. I love mountains. Mountains are my favorite places to be. And, whenever that popular vacation question, beach or mountains, comes up, I'm always the mountain person, right? I just love being in the mountains. I've had the opportunity to hike with some friends a 14,000-foot mountain. And in that hike, the climate changes, the tree line stops, the air thins, and it's on that mountain where I'm reminded of my own size and mortality. It's on that mountain where I receive a glimpse of just the largeness of God. And as I look out over the miles from the summit, my perspective is expanded. In the Old Testament, significant things happened on the mountains. Abraham climbed Mount Moriah to offer Isaac as a sacrifice, and it's there that God stopped his hand there. It was on top of Mount Carmel that the prophet Elijah faced off against 450 false prophets of Baal, and he called down fire from heaven and turned a nation back to God. And of course, most famously, it was Mount Sinai, where Moses met with God and received the 10 Commandments. Now we have Jesus on a mountain, and he's here to fulfill the law of Moses. And it's a new day through him. He is now our king, and this is his kingdom. And this is the theme for Matthew. Anytime Jesus is teaching or saying anything significant, there's a mention of Jesus and a mountain. So Jesus ascends the mountain, he sits down, and there's an importance to this as well, because he's about to dispense some wisdom and some hope. And Jesus isn't just sharing some advice. He's not just having these pithy, memorable statements like love your enemies. He's about to share really good news. He's about to share life-changing truth. He's about to offer what the good life really looks like. Did you ever think about that? What's the good life? And how can we live in it? Well, he begins his sermon with 8 statements that begin with the word bless. Now, again, what does that word mean? We probably are most commonly use it when people sneeze. Bless you, or God bless you. But bless means so much more than just a platitude or just a nice thing to say when somebody's sneezing. Jesus is saying, when he says bless, that there is this deep inward blessing that's available for all people who follow him. Theologian, philosopher, and writer Dallas Willard says that this word blessed refers to the highest type of well-being possible for human beings. Are you interested? He says that it's a transcendent blessing, a deep sense of well-being and joy. Speaking of joy, when's the last time you've experienced a deep sense of well-being and joy? Most of us these days land between anxious and being overwhelmed. But it seems like we're all in search for joy. Think about it. Today you can take master classes on happiness if you're willing to pay for them. At Yale University, you can take a class on happiness for free, and it's famously the most attended course that they have. People are interested in happiness and joy. Jesus is going to talk about the way to be blessed. And it's not what you think. Matter of fact, it's much, much better. You know, we think blessed is attained through wealth and influence. Having that good 401k, we're blessed. Or winning the lottery, or having that dream job. You know, the people that have 2 homes or multiple cars are blessed. Anybody with more. But Jesus says, no. No, it's not those who are blessed. It's the poor who are blessed. The sad, the hurt, those that are persecuted unfairly. The exact opposite of what we would naturally think. So if you want to know what's important to Jesus, here's what he finds to be the most serious things. And I want to read to you the 8 statements of blessing. Some theologians and scholars today, or it's popularized today by being called the Beatitudes. But this is from the mind and wisdom of Jesus. And Matthew records it in Matthew 5:3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the humble, or those who have been humbled, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Guys, Jesus is saying that it's not our out-of-control problems that are insurmountable. Rather, it's the love of God and the interest that he has in our lives, that is. So over the next 8 weeks, we're going to be walking through all 8 of these profound truths. The pathway for this is only through Jesus. There's no other way. We'll have to set ourselves aside for this a little bit. Maybe our own assumptions and preferences. Maybe even our political leanings and values that may be different than Jesus. And over these next several weeks, we're going to listen and we're going to learn about these blessed statements together. And my hope is that we'll align our hearts with Jesus and his values. Guys, Jesus is asking you to take on his characteristics, to conform to him, not culture. So if you're anxious, overwhelmed, or lonely, then the words and person of Jesus is for you. He offers a pathway to resilience. So I want to challenge you to come on this journey with us together as a church family, to prioritize being here and engaging with ways in which we can learn from Jesus and build a holy resilience in and throughout our lives. You know, earlier I quoted a statement where Jesus made to his disciples in John 16:33, where he said, "In this world you will have trouble." And we all understand the truth of that statement. But the second part of what he said is what brings hope. And it's this: but take heart. Have resilience. Take heart. I have overcome the world. Guys, we're going to unpack what taking heart really looks like. Our eyes are going to be on Jesus. He's the author and finisher of our faith. He's the wisest person who ever lived, and he has the power to make a transformative difference in our lives. And it begins with a relationship with him. And I hope that today, even today, you would say yes to him if you've never followed him. You would allow him to be the forgiver of your sins, the leader of your life. Because Jesus offers a much better way than our world today. He offers us healthy relationships, a pathway to that. He offers us a foundation to stand upon where we can build our character and be strong in the midst of all the movement of this world. And he offers us his love and his care and his concern for us and his wisdom. So I hope that you will come on the journey with us and that we'll walk with Jesus through this most amazing sermon that's ever been preached by the greatest teacher who's ever lived. I can't wait. I'll see you in 2 weeks.